Welcome to TradeNBI.com. This is Jonas Report. It's for the 5th of March. And, well, we continued that slide from the ES break of the 50%. Came all the way down to the 38 before catching a little bit of relief off that selling. We had been in this extended period of no steel reset, looking for that dip that usually takes the steel under 1, got to 1.55. Pop back up again, but we've seen the trade-off of short-term buyers after the brief little stint up where you had midterm and short-term buyers engaging, but you didn't see any long-term buyers on that, and basically we just kind of rolled off, and we had that cross yesterday of the Power Mode 2 on the confirmed from a short standpoint, and you can see it really followed through when you see it on a daily. Super powerful from that aspect. Same thing right here on the NASDAQ. As we talked about that crossover, but also same weakness. And we knew the NASDAQ was going to underperform simply because it's overall outperformed. And so it took it far more severe and was below, broke into a new low, as well as the shakeout continuing its dip as well. So you're seeing those similar readings creating slightly different effects within the ratio of movement, but nonetheless still accurately producing the same kind of decay. And from a gold standpoint, of course, when you get that kind of selling, you're not going to see much of a rebound in gold, as well as, like we talked about, both the limitations on the stimulus in the U.S. and that certainly putting pressure back down on the euro because you've got zero happening in the euro. In fact, they're going the wrong direction where you have, we talked about the other day, opening up of states with no masks and things like that, where just the opposite. They're talking about another lockdown, even here in Tuscany, a full red zone where everyone can't do anything. So, disaster for growth from that aspect. It is such a long day. Might as well just scroll through it. So here I had the dots that I was showing you, which is where we have that dip of the steel coming to the 1 level, right to the 0 point, and then you get the orange down below for signaling up. And so it was kind of effective to have that. The blue ones just represent when the steel crosses above the red. And again, these will all disappear as they merge into the actual paint bar. But we had some excellent ranges that just came through. And then, even when we were below the red line with the cyan, and not always a buy, we were producing a lot of these positive extremes coming here in the second half of things. So it was like, well, you can begin to mark them, but a lot of them had already been relatively closely marked from before. So they were really pretty much sticking within the same ranges that had already pre-existed. And sure enough, once the cells came in, hitting those markers and then supporting on various other ones. We had some of these intermittent buy configurations, like with the blue candle here, where we had the rising P pivots, as well as the Power Mode 2 crossed with this slight increase. It just was fine, just couldn't sustain itself, and then we ended up with that steel crossing back below with the orange above, and that's usually a carry-through effect, and that's exactly what it did to the downside in there. And then coming across that, we ended up with that similar construct here, where the steel dips below, you get the orange, and sure enough, that produced pretty solid movement going back to the upside. This slide all the way across here, because then we went into a little bit of sideways action right in between the algos and 100%. And again, when you get the sell, boom, it popped in. This is really what I was hoping for, this design effect where you end up with that short that doesn't seem to carry through much, and then you get that configuration. In this particular case, it was just a full reset buy configuration that propelled it even further to the upside. But then we had a series of the short signals. Started to fade off on a couple of them, but once they triggered, they were pretty swift and severe, and they literally led to some dramatic moves as we come all the way across. We ended up with the orange buy, not bad. It just wasn't able to produce anything, because once you get that immediate decline back below the 7.5, it tends to be soft, and then it built back up again just for a brief run. So it was still net okay. It just hit that algo level and wasn't able to move, and you got that again, the steel coming below cyan. Moving it over a bar, you can wait for the shakeout to come down. I like to at least see the gold being flat. It did happen even a bar earlier than that. but the orange, the magenta candle coming in, so literally it signals it right about there, and that's when it turns the candle color immediately that shape. And then we had a couple of potential buys. They just weren't able to get anywhere near the 23%. I mean, every time they got close, they just got rejected right off of it, and producing those exact same signals, and then it just traded sideways under, pretty much close to the 23 and 0 all the way through before breaking down further. And that's exactly what you get when you don't have enough buyers pushing it to go anywhere. And it's crazy when you're getting a sell signal and you're at the 0%. Is always fun. And that these are pretty big numbers that we declined going through. So it seems smaller when you're seeing it in that big of a range, but when you look at the totality of it and how far we dipped from the 20s to where we closed up at 66, I mean, you need 40 points back up after being down, 90. Because again, institutions are just about getting all their money in, so they start to see opportunities when they get these kind of dips, and they start to fish into the waters, and clearly caught that from the bottom there. And then we started getting some more DOC spreads, but under positive extremes. So we set the positive extremes exactly right here at the 48 level. So when it got back up to the peak and produced the same things, even this one wasn't horrible. I mean, you had the 68, which was clean DOC spread, did pop all the way up to 76, about 8 points in there, and then pretty much came all the way back down to exactly the positive extreme fill. So you have to be patient when you get these bigger ranges because those moves become larger, and so you just have to expect that you're going to have a little bit more intraday bar range, and well within reasonable. And again here, DOC spread short, it held up for quite some time, did come back down, and then produced that exact equivalent here, which is below the 0. And then the orange dipping down, and that led to the move back up to the 100%. And then, whether you started with the first one that took place here or right when the green and cyan started to reject, I kind of like to wait for that first shakeout, even the one right before where at least it's dipped below the previous one. It wasn't quite below gold. This one finally was, and obviously you can see the effects of that taking place in the beginning of the after hour. So clean, but busy action. So it was a pretty productive day, and I think fairly in line with what we've been seeing from the readings. The broader, higher value ranges of the daily and 50K and stuff were really clearly presenting this. So it was good follow through from that action. As always, though, I will put up anything relevant, and once I've got the details on some of these little bugs that I'm working out with these dots, I will convert them into the paint bar. So you just see green flip there, and the rest of it would stay red. And same with the other long ones that don't present the buy, they'll flip to the red as well. So it'll be a little more precise that way, which is nice. Always improving that. Trade well. We'll talk to you later.